Good morning, and ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday, the 29th of July. Thanks for joining me online this morning for our live workshop, How to Stand Out at Interview. Well, I've got to tell you, I am up and about today. I'm at the top of my game. I'm at the top of my mood, and that's because Australia are doing so well in the Olympics. Hasn't it been absolutely fantastic to watch our men and women fighting and winning gold medals? Straight off the bat, one lesson that you can take from our Olympians and their performance is that practice and preparation is the key to performing well. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. My name's James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach, and it's great to have you online with me this morning. And we're going to spend the next half an hour talking about how you can stand out at interview, what you can do before the interview to start impressing, what you can do when you're in the interview room, and then what you can do after the interview. So great to have you with me this morning. We're going to have a really good time together today. Bear with me while I share my screen. Coming to you live today via our YouTube channel, which we are streaming across all of our partner sites. So it's great to have you watching whatever platform you're on today. Maybe you're on one of our partner sites, maybe on YouTube, maybe you're on our Facebook page, which we've started streaming to recently as well. But today it is all about standing out at interview. Because for most of you, by the time you've landed an interview, you've put in a lot of work. You have put in a lot of work. You have spent hours on the job board. You have spent hours thinking about finding work. You spent hours on your resume and cover letter. Hopefully you've attended our resume and cover letter workshops. And now you finally landed an interview. So today I'm going to take you through what it is that you need to do to actually stand out at interview. But before we get in, just a couple of housekeeping things. If I look like I'm glancing over here today, that's because where my presentation screen is. So if I do drop out for any reason today, please stay on the line. I run 2 workshops every week. That's over 100 a year. And just occasionally we have technological connection issues, which means that I get disconnected. So if I do get disconnected, just hang on the line. Feel free to ask lots of questions. We've got the comments box or the chat box there. Ask any questions as we're going along today. Take notes as you're watching. If things are sticking out to you, take some notes. And a replay will be available to watch this workshop again via our YouTube channel. Okay, so today, what are you going to learn? What am I going to take you through today? Well, we're going to break it down into 3 sections. First of all, we're going to talk about pre-interview. So what you actually need to do before the interview. Why the preparation is the key. We're then going to get into the room. Okay, you're in the room now. What do you need to do during the interview to actually stand out? What are recruiters really looking for? I'm going to tell you. And what are some of the little things that you can do that make all the difference in a competitive process? And then we're going to finish off by talking about post-interview. So you've left the room, you've left the building. What do you need to keep on doing to keep on impressing after the interview? And then we'll finish off today with an opportunity for questions and answers. So you might have some questions regarding performing well at interview. You can ask them during the presentation. But at the end of today, I'll stay on the workshop and take any questions that you might have. Okay, who am I? I'm James. I'm the candidate coach, but I'm also a director at Smart Recruitment and have been there since 2005. In that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews. It could easily be double that many and over 600 group assessments. So my coaching and teaching to you today is from that perspective. I've placed well over 1,000 people into work. And so that's the background that I have in terms of giving you some coaching advice today. And in particular at Smart Recruitment, we focus on recruiting roles where soft skills and interview behavior are key. And I have seen hundreds of times the best prepared candidate get the job. Not necessarily the most experienced, not necessarily the most qualified, but the best prepared. So I'm going to tell you today how you can be the best prepared candidate. And we launched the Candidate Coach in 2019. All right, so interviewing skills, part 1 of 3 before the interview. So there's one rule that you need to follow to stand out at interview. It's that simple. It is just one rule. Preparation is the key. Now, I know what you're thinking. James, You sound like a boring old man. Preparation is the key. Come on. That is so basic. That is so boring. Well, it's right. Preparation is the key, but preparation is your friend. I want you to actually embrace preparation. A lot of people think, oh, preparation, that sounds like hard work. I'm going to have to go off and do all these things. But I want you to embrace preparation, because preparation is one thing that you can do to get an advantage over the other job seekers that you're competing with. Preparation is key. Preparation is your friend, and preparation you can do. So everything I'm going to show you in this workshop today, you can do. And if you do what I'm going to tell you today, it's going to improve your chances of performing well and getting the job. Regardless of what your background is, my tips and teachings today will help you to improve your chances of landing a job and performing well at interview. All right, so I've got a question. I want you to type your answer into the chat box here. Imagine today you've just landed a job interview. How do you feel? How do you feel when you're on the phone and somebody says you're coming in for a job interview? Type your response into the comment box there. Which emoji from this list here? Are you along the top? Do you feel pretty happy? Do you feel excited? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel scared? There's no right or wrong emotion here. Somebody's feeling quite cool. So when you've landed a job, naturally your emotions start to bubble up quite quickly. Most people feel quite happy. Most people feel excited. They say thank you very much, and they hang up the phone. They hang up the phone. And this is the first missed opportunity that most people have, is they say thanks for bringing me in for an interview, and they hang up the phone. So next time you get invited in for an interview, you need to ask a series of questions before you actually hang up the phone. So what are the questions that you should be asking? Because if you can ask these questions that I'm going to show you now, you are going to get a huge head start on the other job seekers. So before we hang up the phone, these are the questions that we need to ask. Who am I meeting with? It's a straightforward question. You need to know this though. Why do you need to know? Because you need to understand who you're meeting with, because there's a big difference between meeting with someone in the recruitment team and the CEO. You need to be prepared for meeting the CEO or be prepared for meeting the recruiter. Look them up on LinkedIn. Check out their LinkedIn profile. Get an understanding for what they do in the organization. Maybe the person that you're meeting with has only been there for 3 months. Maybe they've been there for 10 years. And you think, wow, they've been there for 10 years. I might ask them why they like working here. Let the person know that you've done some research. So, who am I meeting with? You need to know before you arrive at interview. Question 2, what should I expect? What should I expect at this interview? It is a very broad question, and it might really give you some insight. So, for example, the person might say, look, you're meeting with the CEO. He normally only meets with people for 20 minutes, so don't be concerned if it's a very short interview. That's actually really important for you to know, because if you didn't know it was going to be a very short interview, when it wraps up in 20 minutes, you might be sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, it's only gone for 20 minutes. The CEO must hate me. So you need to get an understanding here. What should I expect? They might say, oh, look, you're meeting with Tony. He's the finance manager. He really likes to find out about, what your values and beliefs are. That's really important for you to know. Well, they might say, look, you're meeting with Sue from the sales team. She's very data orientated. She will really want you to be able to show your achievements and talk about your sales performance. If you ask this question, it's very broad. I can't tell you what the answer is always going to be, but you can get a great insight here into what you should expect at interview. What type of questions will be asked? You want to prepare well for the interview? Well, you need to know what type of questions are going to be asked. Then you can go away and practice. Again, the recruiter might say, look, this is a first round interview. We won't really be focusing on your accounting skills. We'll be more asking you questions around teamwork and attitude, and motivation. You ask this question and you will get a great insight into what you can expect at interview. Cheers. How good's coffee? Love it at 10 o'clock in the morning. What attire should I wear? So this has changed over time. When I started recruitment in 2005, this makes me sound really old. I know you think I look young. Suit and tie was pretty much the go for 9.5 out of 10 interviews. In 2021, it's changed quite dramatically. You need to dress to match the organization that you're going along for an interview with. I still think there's a real danger in being too casual. And if you weren't sure, I would recommend to dress more formally. But what should I wear to interview? If you were going for a marketing position at an advertising agency and you turned up in a pinstripe suit, they might think, oh, that's, you're not quite looking like you're going to fit in here. So it might be blazer and a t-shirt. That's the most appropriate. So what attire should I wear? The recruiter will normally tell you. What is parking like? You need to know. You need to know how you're going to get there. Likewise, public transport, so that you're prepared and you're not running late. How long will the interview take? Again, as I said before, not uncommon for some of our clients to do a 20-minute interview. At the same time, if you're coming in for a group assessment, some companies take 2 to 3 hours to run that interview. So you need to be prepared, because you need to do some things around your interview, I'm sure, whether you're taking time off work, you're organizing a babysitter, you've got appointments before and afterwards, you need to make sure you've eaten beforehand. How long will the interview take? Get an understanding so that you're sitting there and you're comfortable in the environment. What do I need to bring with me? This is a really good question. At Smart Recruitment, for example, we interview and place a lot of temporary workers and casuals, and we need them to bring along payroll information, banking information, superannuation, tax file number, lots of different pieces of information. We normally tell the candidate, but sometimes we forget to. So if you can ask this question, it looks good, it reflects well on you, and you will look organized. Okay, and the most important question, and I clicked the button too quickly, what can I do to really impress at interview? This is such a wonderful question to ask the person before you get there. What can I do to really impress? So let's think about it. Maybe you're one of 5 people who are going to be interviewed. If you can ask the recruiter before the interview this question, what can I really do to impress? What a fantastic opportunity you've got to stand out. You know what you can do, what you might need to do to impress at interview. So again, the recruiter might say, look, we really like to see detailed examples of your previous performance. And then if you know that information, you can go away and you can practice. You can remind yourself of your past performance and your results and all the things that went into it. I can't tell you what the answer is normally going to be to this question, but if you can ask it, you are going to get a wonderful insight that is going to give you a head start in front of the other candidates that are being interviewed. So with all of these questions, whoops, I've gone one too many. With all of these questions, you might not get a great answer to all of them. The recruiter might even say, look, we don't really want to tell you that answer. It's up to you. 9 times out of 10, though, you're going to get answers to these questions. And think about it. If you are walking into an interview and you know the answer to these questions, wowee, you have got such a fantastic opportunity to be so well prepared. So take a screenshot of that. I'm going to leave it up on the screen for a moment. But these are the things that if you can do before you hang up the phone, you are going to give yourself a wonderful opportunity to prepare really well. All right, so that's what we need to do before we've hung up the phone. Let's pretend we've got an interview tomorrow morning, Friday morning, 10 o'clock. This is what we need to do the day before the interview. Check and confirm travel arrangements. Make sure that our clothes are cleaned and ironed and shoes are polished. The reason I want you to do this the day before is to avoid a disaster. If you wake up and it's 2 hours to the interview and you pull out your white shirt to iron it and you discover that there's a stain on the shirt, there's a button missing, moths eaten it, your iron's broken, you can't find your belt, your shoes aren't clean, you are going to start stressing out. You are going to be panicked. Oh my goodness, where am I going to get a spare shirt from? Can I get to the shop in time? You're going to be flustered, and you're not going to perform well when you get to interview. So by doing everything that's on this screen now, including printing everything out that you need to bring along, again, you don't want to find out the morning before your interview, the printer's broken, or you can't get the documents you need. Do it all the day before. What that means is you can go to bed the night before And hopefully your mind isn't racing too much because you're not sitting there thinking you have to do everything you see on the screen now. Get these things done the day before the interview. Practice your interview answers and questions. Do any tests or anything that you've been asked to send through, do it the day before so that you can go to bed and at least know that all these things on this list have been ticked off. All right, morning of the interview. The alarm's gone off. Beep, 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 beep. You might not have slept well, but one of the really important things that you need to do the morning of an interview is to have breakfast. You need a full stomach. This sounds quite funny, but at Smart, we interview in small meeting rooms, for example. We sit across the table, so we're quite near to someone. I like to do all of my interviewing in the morning because that's when I'm sharp. Like with my workshops now, I like to do it in the morning because I feel like I've got high energy. If you're sitting across the table from someone from 45 minutes and they haven't had breakfast, they normally have bad breath. And I have had a lot of occasions where candidates have had bad breath, and it really puts me off. It really puts me off. It is hard for me to have a positive view of a candidate if I have to spend 45 minutes with them smelling their stinky breath. Have breakfast. You need a full stomach. It is also good for your blood sugar levels, your concentration, and your energy. All the other things on the screen there, it's pretty straightforward. Be well presented. Be neat and clean. Avoid strong odors, particularly in Melbourne. If you're off for an interview, take an umbrella. You might need it. Take tissues, take mints, and arrive at the location of the interview with plenty of time. Don't come to reception at, too early, but arrive at the location and just sit downstairs or sit in your car. What are we taking along to the interview? Well, if you don't have a compendium, I recommend you go and get one. That's what a compendium is there. You can get them from Officeworks or Kmart or a news agency. And if you take a compendium with you to an interview and you have it tucked under your arm, you look really professional. But it also has a practical application. All of the things listed below compendium there, I would encourage you to have. You might say, James, why have I got to take a resume with me? I've already emailed them my resume. That's a good question. But let me say to you, if you're sitting there with a recruiter and somebody joins the interview after 10 minutes and they don't have your resume, if you can just lean across the table and say, here's a copy of my resume, fantastic. That's a tick. You're looking well prepared. So resume, cover letter, elevator pitch. If you don't know what that is, Google it or attend one of my upcoming workshops. Write down some questions that you want to ask. At the end of every interview, you're going to be asked, what would you like to know? Write down some really good questions that you've thought out. So everything in your compendium, tuck it under your arm, you will look professional. So preparation is the key. Preparation is your friend, and preparation you can do. So everything I've talked about so far is leading up to the interview. It's leading up to the interview. My question for you, and type your answer into the comments box, please. Can you do this preparation? Can you do everything I've asked you to do so far today, whether it's on the phone before the interview, whether it's a day before, or it's the things that you're taking along to the interview? Can you do these things that I've been asking you? Hopefully, for most of you, the answer is yes, 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 I absolutely can. Now, I know that some of these things mean you've got to put in a little bit of extra effort, but recruitment is a competitive process. So everything that you are doing is you're not needing to do things just well enough. You're needing to do things to stand out. Unemployment is quite low at the moment. It is a good time to be looking for work, but that doesn't mean it's not very competitive, because it is. For a normal role, we might get 50 to 100 candidates. We might phone screen 20 of them, and we might interview the top 6. So you might think, fantastic, I've got to the top 6. And yes, that is a great achievement. But to get to the job, you've got to be number 1. You've got to be number 1 of the top 6. So don't rest on your laurels. Prepare for the job in a way that shows how you will work if you get the job. All right, part 2. Let's get into the interview room. So you are in there now. I absolutely love this quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned what people will forget, what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you make them feel. People will not forget how you make them feel. Now, maybe my presentation to you today is a little bit of an example of this. Hopefully, after the end of the presentation today, I've made you feel motivated. I've made you feel that you've got a great chance to go and get the job. You might not remember all the things I say. Hopefully, you remember that I was a high energy coach, and I gave you some hope and gave you some good tips. But that is what we remember as people. We remember how people make us feel. Now, in all of my time in recruitment, I can't tell you how often a company here said, we really liked that person, we're going to give them the job. Or we didn't quite like them. So what's the key word in those two sentences there? Like. It's about likability and the way somebody made you feel. So this is human nature. Let me show you some tips that you can apply in your job interview in the room to make people feel more comfortable around you. Why do people need to feel more comfortable? Well, it's a job interview. You will be feeling nervous, but there's also a very good chance that the person interviewing you is also feeling nervous, particularly if you are meeting a manager and not the recruitment person from the company. This manager might only hire one person every couple of years. They may not have interviewed anybody for 2 years. They're probably feeling very nervous themselves as well. So if you can create an environment of comfort, then it is going to work in your favor. Because don't forget that the person who is interviewing you is also considering whether they want to work with you. You might be sitting next to the person who's interviewing you in their office for the next couple of years. So they're thinking, do I want to sit next to this person? Do I want to work with them for 40 hours a week? Okay, so there's a tips from an article and the link's on the screen there. It might be a little bit hard to see, but I can drop it into the comments box. So get your smile on. People love it. If you smile at someone, what normally happens? Most of the time they smile back. Smile. Be friendly. Look the person in the eye. Give off a confident vibe. Sit up straight in your chair. Have good posture. Have an open frame. So I'm talking at the moment with an open frame. I have my shoulders back. I talk with my hands. A closed frame is sitting a bit like this. You know, if you were talking to me and I'm sitting like this, I'm not giving off a good vibe, am I? But a confident vibe. You're in the interview. You know what you're talking about. Don't be cocky. Don't be arrogant. Don't be a punk. Be confident. Dish out the compliments. So say something to the person you're meeting with. Hey, I notice you've been working here for 5 years. That's a great achievement. Hey, that's a lovely blazer that you're wearing today, James. Where did you get it from? Absolutely nothing wrong with dishing out a compliment. Slow things down. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of job seekers make is once they get into the interview room, they think, oh my goodness, this is it. I've got to make sure I say everything. And they kind of panic and they talk too quickly. And at the end of the interview, it's all been a bit of a mess. Take deep breaths. Remember that when you're nervous, you tend to speak 20% more quickly. So however you're speaking at interview is actually coming out more quickly than you realize. So slow things down. Have open body language. So I've just spoken about this one. Sit up straight. Don't be leaning too back in your chair. Don't be crossing your arms. Don't be crossing your legs. Don't be sitting to the side. Look directly in the eye of the person that's meeting with you and have open body language. Show that you're actually listening. So nod when someone's talking. Make the odd, okay, make some comments. Don't be just thinking about what your answer is going to be, but show that you're listening. Use the mirroring technique. So Google this one if you're not sure what the mirroring technique is. But people like to be communicated back to in the same style that they communicate in. So maybe there's words or phrases or mannerisms that your interviewer displays. You can mirror them a little bit, certainly not mocking them, but mirror them in the interview. Make the interviewer feel at home. As I said, they could be very nervous. So have a bit of a laugh. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Whoops. And that's the next point there. Be funny. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having a laugh in an interview. That really helps, to build some quick rapport and make it a comfortable environment. Be really honest. This is an opportunity for you to shine. It's an opportunity for you to be yourself and be honest. Remember to be nice. At the end of the interview, one thing I'd certainly recommend is you shake the person's hand and you say, "Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm sure you're very busy, but I really appreciate you spending half an hour interviewing me." That's just a nice thing to say. It's a compliment, which ticks off number 3 on the list, and it shows that you've got good manners and you're a good communicator. So all those things on the screen there, these are things that you can do. Again, this has got nothing to do with your education, qualification, years of experience, or suitability for the job. But if you can do these things, guess what? It increases your chance of performing well at interview and getting the job. So, standing out in the interview room, what can we actually do once we start talking? So we want to impress with our knowledge of the organization. So as recruiters, we meet with lots of candidates, lots and lots, and we can easily tell the difference between the candidate who's just looking for any job and the candidate who really wants to work for us. And what we are wanting to recruit is candidates who really want to work for us. You can be that candidate by doing your research, doing your preparation. So show what you know about the organization. Do your research to understand what they do and what they stand for. Look into their values and their beliefs, and often these will be on their website or in any of their corporate information. Show that you understand the market that they work in. Read some information in the news. Work this information back into your answers. Show that you're an expert in your field. So we want candidates who really have done research and can impress us with the knowledge of our organization. And that looks like a long list, but you can do this in 20 minutes. If you've got an interview lined up, I would be spending a lot of time Googling, looking through news articles. If you can find some information that's a little bit hard to find, and you can work that into your interview, the interviewer will be impressed. I'm very impressed when a candidate knows more about an organization than I do. To me, that is a huge tick. I'm like, this candidate is good. They're almost making me feel a bit embarrassed because they know more about the company than I do. That is what I want. Impress with your knowledge of the position. So understand what a good job looks like. So if we're recruiting a sales role, I love it when a candidate says, "Look, this is my sales target at my previous role. I would imagine at this company, your sales target would be something like this. My aim would be to achieve this level. That would be my minimum." When we're looking for candidates, we're not looking for somebody to do the job. We're looking for someone to do the job well. So you don't want to just show that, hey, I can do the job, because guess what? A lot of people can do the job. You want to show that you're going to do the job better than those other candidates. So you know what doing a good job looks like. You can link your experience and your education to the position. So you build a bridge there. And you understand the impact that a position has. And some people go, "Oh, look, I'm only going for a customer service role. It's not an important position." If you've got that attitude, then I don't want to employ you. I want to employ the person who says, "Hey, this customer service role is really important because it's customer fronting. I'm going to be speaking with 20 of your customers every day. That's 1,000 customers a year. And I am so passionate about providing great customer service because I know how important it is." That's the candidate that I want to hire. So that's what you should say. And then impress with what you will bring to the team. So again, the person meeting you might be looking to hire you for their team, and that means they're going to spend 40 hours a week with you, 48 weeks of the year. What are you going to be like to work with? You're a potential colleague of the interviewers. Make them want to work with you. And again, it comes back to our previous slide around likability and making people feel comfortable. So you're probably going, "Oh, okay, James, lots of research here, lots of research. What's with all the research? Why do I have to do all of this research, coach?" Well, I'm going to share a quote with you from a well-known Melbourne recruiter, and his name is Stefan Wheelak, and he works for a software company called Explore. This is a LinkedIn post that he did recently. I'll read it out to you. "Credentials on your resume will only get you that first interview, but that's not the key to your next position. Looking at the people we recently hired or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with their understanding of our business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet not all of them were exactly what we were looking for." On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper. But when I spoke with her, she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only research a company once she lands an on-site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though if you haven't spent any time researching our company, you're missing the mark. I understand doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it will pay off. However, that's exactly what other applicants do to get the job, and they're the ones you compete with right from the beginning of your application. So I use this quote all the time because this is a software company. This is the recruiter for the software company, and this is what he is saying. You need to do your research. That's what the best candidates are doing. Do it to stand out. Okay. A candidate who answers questions confidently at the interview gives a great sense that they are a top performer. So when you're actually answering questions at interview, if you can do so without too many ums and ahs and looking around and not sures, you give the impression to me that you are a top performer. And again, practice and preparation is the key here. So here I'm going to share with you some of the more common interview questions. Now, I know that there are lots and lots and lots, as you would, of interview questions available on the internet. I'm just going to run through a couple of common ones now. 10 common ones. What can you tell me about yourself? The answer to this one is your elevator pitch. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, Google it and create one. If you've been in some of my workshops where we talk about creating an elevator pitch, you'll know what I'm talking about here. I won't spend a lot of time going into that today because that's a 10-minute convo on its own, but have an elevator pitch because this is the single most common interview question. You can also find how to create an elevator pitch on one of our videos on the Candidate Coach site. Can you list your strengths? Try and tie your strengths back to your technical ability in your role. A lot of people say things like teamwork, hard, team player, hard worker, boring, boring, boring. I want to know what your strengths are in relation to probably this job. So if you are going for an accounting position, list three strengths, at least two of them need to be specific to accounting, okay? Because anyone can say team player, anyone can say hard worker, anyone can say diligent. But if you are an accountant, can every accountant say, don't recruit many accounting roles, so it's not a great example, but can many accountants say, I've got an extremely good eye in terms of attention to detail, and I'm experienced in using the latest software packages for MYOB and Xero. So be specific there with your strengths to the job. Weaknesses. What weaknesses do you have? Not many people like this question. And so what most people do is they don't practice an answer for it. The way we ask this question and the way people answer it has changed a lot over the years. It's okay to have weaknesses now. It's okay to have learning development areas. So that's what I would do. I would focus on an area that you're looking to develop in. So you might say, oh, look, I do have really good strengths with accounting software packages, including MYOB and Xero, but I've not used ACPAC before. I've not used ACPAC, and so I'd like to extend my knowledge with ACPAC. So you're admitting somewhere that you're not perhaps as strong as you'd like to be. So you're showing some self-awareness there, but you're not tying it completely into a weakness because you're also mentioning strengths. Why should I consider hiring you? I like to ask this towards the end of every interview. And candidates struggle with this question. You might be thinking that they're thinking, I just want a job. Coach, I just want a job. So look the person in the eye and say to them something from the heart. I've been looking for work for 2 months now. Getting this opportunity with your company would be a life-changing moment for me. It would mean a lot for me personally. It would mean a lot for my family. And I guarantee you that if you give me this opportunity, I'm going to work harder than anybody who you're considering. I won't let you down, and it'll be one of the better hiring decisions that you've ever made. Talk from the heart. Tell them why they should hire you and what it's going to mean to you. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? We probably don't ask this question as much anymore, but tie it to the organization. Hey, look, 5 years from now, I'm not 100% sure. My focus at the moment is getting this job and working really, really hard for the next 1 to 2 years in this position. What I'm hoping is if I then do that, there'll be further opportunities within the organization. Why do you want to work here? This comes back to the research. This should be an easy question for you to answer if you've done your research. What is your salary expectation? Again, this is a question that we don't like talking about our salaries. So you need to have 2 numbers in mind. Your dream salary, and even your dream salary needs to be realistic, and kind of your walkaway salary. So if you're going for an administration position and your dream salary is $60,000, but if everything else was perfectly lined up, you'd be happy with $52,000. That's kind of how I'd answer the question. I'd say, look, I'm targeting $60,000, but for a role that ticks all the other boxes, I'd consider something less. See how I didn't mention 52? Because if you mention 52, guess what? You're going to be offered 52. If you say what you said there, you're targeting 60, but you consider less if it ticked all the other boxes, the organization might go, oh, okay, we don't want to quite offer them 60 straight away, but we really like them, so let's offer them 57. So straight away, you've gone from 52 to 57. Don't mention your bottom number because that's where the offer will come in. What motivates you? This is personal, a bit like that answer before. I'm motivated by money. I'm motivated by my family. I'm motivated by sales targets. Nothing wrong with what your motivations are. It's personal. This one, you need an example. What makes a good team player? A lot of recruiters like to ask this. We want to see an example of teamwork and that you understand what teamwork is and you understand what your role is in teamwork. So have an example ready with lots of details. And then finally, is there anything that you would like to ask me? We've talked about this. You need to go with about 6 questions written down. The reason you won't ask 6, you probably will only ask 2 or 3, but you need to have 6 written down because some of them might actually be answered during the interview. So preparation is the key. Preparation is your friend. And as we've been saying this morning, preparation you can do. All right, the final part of today, post the interview. So let's say you've performed well, you've left the interview thinking, yeah, I've done well. Thanks, coach. You really helped me. It's not over yet, though, okay? It's not over yet. You can continue to impress after the interview. So let's go back to the example. 100 candidates applied. 20 had a phone interview. 6 had a face-to-face interview. You're one of the 6. You know you've performed well, so you're thinking maybe, I reckon I'm the top performer here. But guess what? Maybe 3 of those 6 performed really well. You and 2 others. And it's going to be really close. It's going to be really close to who gets the job out of you and 2 others. So what can we actually continue to do to impress after the interview? Here's what we need to do. Just a couple of things. First of all, send a thank you email. I love getting a thank you email. All it needs to say is, Dear James, thank you for meeting with me yesterday. I really enjoyed the interview. I look forward to hearing back from you soon with the next steps. I like getting that email. It shows good manners. It shows good communication. And you go up a couple of notches. Boom, 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 boom. Your chances of getting the job actually increase if you send a thank you email. It sounds crazy, but it's right. If you've been asked to do something, so often we'll say to a candidate, I'm going to send you a link to complete a personality test. Can you please send me through those details for the references? Hey, that certificate that you mentioned in the interview, can you get me a copy of that? Be responsive and do it straight away. Straight away. Don't even wait till the end of the day. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do it now. Show that you are really responsive. Show that if they hire you, you are going to react quickly. And if you don't react quickly when there's a job on the line, well, then you're not going to react quickly if you're a coworker. So do it quickly, be responsive. And if a timeline for communication hasn't been established, it's okay to check back in 3 or 4 days later. Hey, I'm just calling to see if there's any update. They might go, oh, no, look, we're still interviewing candidates until the middle of next week. At least then you know. So there's nothing wrong with establishing some communication after 3 or 4 days. Be positive, be polite, be professional, and be responsive at all times. Every single part of the recruitment process, from when you send through your resume, you have a phone interview, you have a face-to-face interview, there's follow-up communication. You're being judged on it all the time. You're always on show when you're looking for work. So preparation is the key. Preparation is your friend. Preparation you can do. So if you're still wanting some more assistance, the great news is you can head to our candidate coaching website where you're watching it today, unless you're on our Facebook page. We've got 2 episodes here. So episode 8, hosted by me, getting the basics right for interview. You're going to hear from 7 different recruiters across these 2 episodes, though. 7 recruiters from 7 different organizations. We talk about the basics in episode 8 and then what you need to do in episode 9 to really stand out. So just had a question come through on the chat. If an agency sends you to an interview with a client, does post-interview apply with agency? So yes, if an agency is sending you for an interview with a client, all of the rules still apply. And the agency should be able to help you in terms of doing that amount of research. The follow-up post the interview, again, yes, I would always send a follow-up to the person that interviewed you at the client. You want to thank them for their time. Thank them for their time. You also want to send a follow-up to the agency recruiter as well and thank them as well. So good question, good thing to note. Always send a thank you through to the person that interviewed you. A quick word now. So on our candidate coach, you have now got access to these wonderful resources. We've got 12 episodes of video coaching, 6 or 7 different recruiters giving you advice on everything from resumes, cover letters, interview, LinkedIn profile, salary negotiations, mindset and attitude, preparing great answers. Go and watch these videos on our coaching platform. You can download resume and cover letter templates and fill them in. You can download interview questions and practice. So as you can see on the screen there, that's common administration interview questions. Most of our candidate coaching platform sites have many different interview questions, ones that are specific to your industry that you can practice in advance of your interview. You can take online tests where you can practice your skills and see how well you're going. We've got downloadable checklists. We've got articles you can read. We've got specific advice for executive candidates. So if you're looking for executive work at the moment. We've got mental health support. So if you're feeling pretty flat, and this is not uncommon, and there's nothing to be ashamed about the fact that when you're looking for work, it can really make you feel average. We've got some resources there, to help you balance your mental health and stay mentally healthy when you're looking for work. And we also have plenty of upcoming live workshops. All of this is for free. So on the live workshops, have a look at this. This is our August calendar. Take a screenshot of that. So next week, we're doing resumes and cover letters. The week after, we're going into LinkedIn and back onto interview performance. The following week, I'm going to talk to you specifically. We're going to go into great detail about how you can give very good answers to interview questions. Job hunting tips in a competitive market, a session for graduates, and then a masterclass covering all topics. So where you're watching this workshop today, you can watch all of those workshops at all of those times over the next 4 weeks. That's 8 workshops for you to be watched for free. But before you go, I would love to ask for 1 or 2 things from you. First of all, we would love you to complete a survey on your experience of today's webinar. I love to get feedback. I love it. It helps me know what to prepare for upcoming coaching sessions. So I've dropped that link into the chat box now. Please complete that before you go. And also follow us on our LinkedIn page. If you follow us on our LinkedIn page, you'll hear about a lot of our workshops. You'll also hear about a lot of the new features. So we're regularly releasing new videos and other new content onto our LinkedIn page. And you can follow that LinkedIn page again in the link that I've just popped in there. Follow that and stay up to date with all of our content. Now, if you've got any other questions, now is the time. Now is the time. If you've got a question about resumes, applying for jobs, cover letters, pop something in. I'm just going to pause for a moment and have a sip of coffee. And then I will see if we've got any questions that have come through and we'll answer those. Alrighty, questions just come through. Should I have a photo on my resume? Great question. I love this question. I get asked this question all the time. So a couple of things. Attend my resume workshop because we spend a fair bit of time talking about should I have a photo on my resume. So my answer to this is it is completely up to you. Your resume is a sales document. Its purpose is to market you. If you feel that having a corporate headshot, a professional headshot of you on your resume is going to make you more appealing to a prospective employer, go for it. Put a photo on your resume. You need to be aware that as soon as you put a photo on your resume, you're going to be judged on your appearance and how you look. Even recruiters who are very well trained not to do this can't completely remove their unconscious bias. So it's up to you. If you don't want to have a photo on your resume, or you think, I've heard I should, but I don't feel comfortable, don't worry. Leave it off. Don't give it a second thought. It's a common question, but it's not that big a deal. Alrighty, well, that's the end of today with no other questions. So just a reminder to please complete our 2-minute survey. It really is only 2 minutes. Follow us on LinkedIn. I'll hopefully see you back here on Tuesday next week when we're running our next session, which is, let me bring up the previous slide, create an amazing resume. So back here, 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday next week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy watching the Olympics. I've been the candidate coach. You've been great. I look forward to broadcasting to you again on Tuesday. Thank you.